Hello, all you gridiron fanatics out there. Glad you could join us on this friend the show so that you can be a part of it. We're going to start trying to go live real soon, you guys. Kickoff Morning 2023. This, of course, is Gridiron Gab Pro Style, where we gab about all things from Kickoff 2023 to the regular season scoops to the scores in the postseason and the picks in the offseason. Let's start gabbing. Welcome back, all you gridiron fanatics out there. Glad you could join us on the 2023 opening kickoff edition of Gridiron Gab Pro Style. I am, of course, Mr. CeeLo, here to get you caught up on all the action as I did earlier with the Jonathan Taylor Christian Watson tie-in between the Colts. Wishful thinking, if you ask me. We're gonna go in and we're gonna hit hard all the slate of games for today. We won't necessarily hit the 8:15 matchup or 8:30 matchup here. We'll do that right after we do the recap later on. Well, let's get into it. The first game on our slate is going to be the Baltimore Ravens and the Houston Texans. Texans visit the Ravens. I'm of the essence that this game is probably going to be a little bit more than C.J. Stroud's looking forward to. It's not even right that the NFL put this game as C.J. Stroud's opening start. But I think he's going to do a lot better than a lot of people think. The Ravens aren't nearly as prolific on that defensive side of the ball, blitz-wise, as they've been. I think they struggle running the football, and this is not going to be well. But I do think with the Texans having their full cast back, other than John Mechie, Jimmy Ward's going to be out. And I think Titus Howard's still going to be out. He was on IR. Yeah, he's on IR. But then you got Marlon Humphrey. He's not playing today. So that's a big loss for the Ravens' defensive secondary. But can C.J. Stroud take advantage? That's always, the question is, can the quarterbacks take advantage of the opportunities that presented? I think he does, but I think on the other side, I don't know if DeMeco Ryans' defense is going to have enough to sustain Lamar Jackson. Now, I'm not sold on the MVP Lamar Jackson that people are talking about, the throwing for 5,000 yards. I'm not. I will go on record as saying that he won't throw for 5,000 yards this year. He won't even throw for 4,000. You heard me. He won't even throw for 4,000. But I think Tom Lumpkin's a very good offensive coordinator. He'll probably run for 1,000 again. And until Lamar Jackson gets to the point where he's throwing the ball more than he's running, he's not going to win anymore. He'll win a lot of games against inferior teams that don't have a defense and don't have an offense. But Baltimore will win this game. I don't think they'll win it as far as many people believe they will. I don't think they'll run it. They'll run them out of the building. I think they'll be able to sustain some drives, and I just think Baltimore's defense up front, they rely a lot on blitzing, and I think on the back end, C.J. Stroud's going to find some things as well through play action. I think they run it decent enough to get play action, but ultimately I think the Ravens win this game. I would say 24-14. Let's move forward. This is the matchup that is the most intriguing to me. Cincinnati versus Cleveland. Cleveland has had their number the last couple of times. I mean, there have been times when it looks like, okay, Cleveland's going to win this. Cincinnati's going to win this matchup. And it turns out that the lowly Browns, even without Deshaun Watson now, they win these games. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Cleveland's built totally different than a lot of teams now. And that's why to me the addition of Deshaun Watson to this team, it's kind of like the addition of Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. They had everything that you would want. They just didn't have a quarterback. Here in Cleveland, they had a monster running game. Now, the question I have about Cleveland is, can Nick Chubb stay healthy? Because the reality of it is, outside of Nick Chubb, they really lost. Jerome Ford's he's a guy that's a decent backup, but when you had Kareem Hunt as his backup, people forget Kareem Hunt was the man in Kansas City. I would venture to say that's the reason why Kansas City had such trouble after he left. They didn't have a running game. They didn't have a guy that scared you. And the other scary part about this is that Deshaun Watson has had a full off-season cycle to practice, and it's not going to be 12 weeks in between before he plays again. You're going to have a Deshaun Watson that has Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Njoku, and this is his backups, Marquise Goodwin, and Cedric Tillman, and even David Bell, the speedster out of Purdue. This guy's got a loaded deck here in Cleveland. And if Deshaun Watson is half of the guy that he was in Houston, this guy's going to be tough. But on the other hand, let's flip this narrative here a little bit. Let's go and look at the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow, of course, coming off of a very satisfying deal. He officially now has the largest contract in the NFL and is the highest paid player. But we already know that's going to come back. We already know that he's not going to be the highest paid player after next season because you're going to have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins needing to get paid, and he's going to take a pay cut in traditional Joe Burrow fashion. Well, it's not traditional, but you know what I mean. They have Joseph Asai, who's a big piece to their defense that's going to be out today. You know, I've already well documented the Jesse Bates, Von Bell departures, and that's going to hurt them. You know, I love the young guys that they have. I really do. I don't want people to sit there and say, oh, the Bengals have scrubs on their defense. They don't. They really don't. They have some really good pieces, as well as guys like Jordan Battle and DJ Turner. And, of course, I totally forgot about Miles Murphy. They did some really good drafting. I would honestly beg to say that they've done probably the best drafting at the back end as anybody has. And being able to stay great and keeping elite players, you have to do that. And we're going to see the first time official season opening starter of Cam Taylor-Britt and Dax Hill. The two guys that they drafted last season, and we saw it almost like this was a writing on the wall type of thing. Nick Scott will be starting at strong safety for the first time. I just was a big guy that thought that they should have, put Dax Hill at the strong safety spot and kept Jesse Bates. Dax Hill's a great player. Him and Cam Taylor-Britt. These guys have been phenomenal in relief duty when guys get hurt. I'm just not sure with the Cleveland Browns' power. This is a game that you want. You know, my gut is telling me Cincinnati, but then again, this is going to be the first game for Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, as well as Joe Burrow. And I'm thinking that the Cleveland Browns are going to be able to run that football and they're going to do play action pass, and I think they pull out the win. It's going to be a shootout. I think this is going to be a shootout, and I think the Cleveland Browns win a shootout 31-28. Tampa Bay, Minnesota. Looking at this game here between the Bucs and the Vikes, this is going to be a game that the Buccaneers are going to have to sit down and really reevaluate what they have, not only at quarterback, but this whole Mike Evans thing. This is a disaster. I mean, people are sitting there saying, okay, why is Mike doing? Mike's giving up money to get certain guys in here. So, you don't have any loyalty to your players. So it would not surprise me. There are a lot of teams that are already giving calls to him, seeing maybe if they want to trade for him. I probably should do a show on what this new deal, what the no new deal means for Tampa Bay and Mike Evans. Mike Evans is pretty much gave them an ultimatum that he wanted a new deal or he was going to shop himself. It wouldn't surprise me, like I said before, that the Bucks shopped him. But I'll do a show about who I think is probably going to go after him. Do I think Mike Evans will be a disgruntled player? I don't think so. I think he's going to be playing for his stock up, and I think ultimately he ends up demanding a trade. And looking here, the only major injury I'm looking at is Marcus Davenport for the Minnesota Vikings, a guy that they got over from the Saints. Honestly, as I said, guys, I think this is going to be... I'm not saying the Vikings are that good. I just think the Buccaneers are that horrible. I think this ends up being... I wasn't sold on Baker Mayfield. He's got a lot of weapons, and you've got a disgruntled Mike Evans. I still think he plays well, but I think ultimately what it boils down to is Mike Evans knew they're in a rebuild. He ain't trying to hear that. He wants an extension. He's not going to break in a new quarterback, and I don't blame him. He wants another ring. He knows. So he's like, unless they get a deal done at the 12th hour, the 11th hour, this ain't happening. So I think this ends up being a 27-6 Vikings win. I don't think the Buccaneers have much on offense. Not a lot of guys here, so I'm thinking I'm going 27-6. It's going to be a beatdown, and then it's going to have the Buccaneers and Bowles have to sit down and talk. They're going to have to work something out, figure it out. Moving forward, let's talk about the Tennessee Titans and the New Orleans Saints. I can honestly say there's a toss-up between... There are three teams that are fighting for the biggest hype train of the summer of 2023. Jets, Broncos, and the Saints. Now, given that the Tennessee Titans made probably one of the biggest splash of the early summer or midsummer, or if you want to call it, by signing DeAndre Hopkins, they've been relatively quiet. About the only thing you've heard about the Tennessee Titans was which guy is going to... Are the Titans going to move to... Are they going to stick with Ryan Tannehill with him 1 year left on his deal? Who's going to be the heir apparent? Is it Malik Willis? Is it Will Levis? But other than that, you really heard nothing. It's been silence out of Nashville. Saints, however, made a big splash early, even, just early on when that Derek Carr... It's been so long, guys. The Derek Carr fiasco that happened in Vegas. It's been total silence since then. Other than a couple of departures, but you've got guys like Alvin Kamara that's had his own legal stuff going on, but you understand what that is. But I'm looking at the report, and something else that's happened is that turnover of players. The Saints are always somehow able to maintain a certain level of play with their players, and their salary cap is always up there. But looking here, you've still got James Winston and Taysom Hill backing up Derek Carr. Now, they made a splash by going to get Jamal Williams. I'm going to tell you, this is a underappreciated signing because he is a great backup. And I think Alvin Kamara is suspended for like the first 3 or 4 games, I think. I'll have to check my resources on that. But you got Chris Olave and Michael Thomas saying he feels better than he's ever felt since 2020, excuse me. Now, outside of Chris Olave and Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed is okay, but there ain't much there. You do have Foster Moreau, Jawan Johnson, and Jimmy Graham. I'm assuming they're going to use the tight end a lot. I'm just assuming that. They're carrying 3 of them. And they're pretty good. Jimmy Graham I can't believe he's still in the league. I remember there was one time this guy was wanting to get paid like a wide receiver. But looking at... You're looking at a defense that's just been... I'm like looking at this defense and I'm sitting here looking and it's like, who are these guys? You still got the usual franchise guys in Marshawn Lattimore, Demario Davis, and Cameron Johnson. And then you got Carl Granderson, excuse me. I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking Isaiah Foskey is third on the depth chart. I'm like, what? So these guys must be pretty good. Oh, and they also Nefi Sewell. They have that. I think he's the brother, if I recall correctly, of Penny Sewell. But looking here, and of course they have Honey Badger and Marcus May. They've got a very good secondary. Other than the Paulson, Adebo, Paulson Adebo, I'm not sure what else they have, but so I'm sorry guys, these names, I'm not really good with names. I don't want to say your name's wrong, but let's get back to the game. The Saints defense used to be one of those defenses you could hang your hat to. Now secondary wise, I think you can hang your hat there, especially when you got guys like Marcus May and Honey Badger roaming the reins. But we're talking about the Tennessee Titans. Now, Matchup Predictor has the Saints winning only but by a small margin. Here's what I believe. The addition to DeAndre Hopkins does two things. It gives Ryan Tannehill the number one option that he has been looking for. Now, people can say Brown was his guy. Brown really was up and down. He was really an up and down receiver. And, Corey Davis just retired. He wanted a big deal because he had really a good season. And I'm not mad at him for that. Go get your money. And, the thing is, Treylon Burks has not panned out. Well, I'm not going to say he hasn't panned out. He's not your number one. That's not a guy you want to say, okay, your first year we're going to make you our number one. But now this is interesting because now he's that guy. He's that guy that's opposite. And then you still got Nick Westbrook. But then you got to think there's the guy that is 30. He's 30 years old, but here's the thing. He is still one of the elite runners of the game because of his ability to move as well as he does at his size. Derrick Henry. This is not going to change. And I'm going to be honest with you. Since I'm going to do this one later on, but since the Falcons have no way of using Kyle Pitts, if I'm the Titans, I make a deal for Kyle Pitts. This is going to be year 3 for Kyle Pitts. I told everybody, this is why I should have had the show. If I would have had the show 3 years ago, I would have told you guys, Falcons going to draft him, and then it's not going to utilize him. Kyle Pitts is not a bust. I'm going to say that right here. If the Tennessee Titans get this guy, or let's say Patrick Mahomes, I'll tell you something. Atlanta do not be dumb enough to trade him to Kansas City. I'm a firm believer that a weapon is only as valuable as you allow it to be. But as in reference to the game, I think that you could call this, and most people would not call this an upset, but I think the Tennessee Titans run the ball, and they run it well, and they hit this defensive front seven that is, in my opinion, suspect, and they win this game. You heard me. I think Derek Carr has a decent opening day, but I think the Tennessee Titans win this game. I think the Titans go into New Orleans and they win this game. I think Derrick Henry gets back to his old self. I think he runs this thing and he runs it hard. And I truly believe that the Titans run their way to victory. And I would say it's going to be a 17-10 win. Titans over Saints. Now let's look at my matchup. The Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. As any of you know, if you guys have my channel Growlin' and Prowlin', I did all of the Carolina Panthers schedule 3 months. I think it was 3 months in advance. And I had us slated going 11-6. And we lose this game. Now, I don't think that changes for the fact that people are not happy with. There's a lot of people that are not happy with the Brian Burns situation. You guys have heard me say this. Pay the man. You've already said he's the cornerstone of your defense. Why are you pretending now that he's not? Not to mention, you've had opportunities to trade him. Now you want to play. Falcons have Bijan Robinson, the rookie out of Texas, and he and that offensive line are the number one reason I'm picking them to win. I think we do decent, and then of course the Panthers have injuries at the wide receiver position. And of course this is Bryce Young's first start. I'm not picking the Falcons because of Desmond Ridder. Don't think that, guys. I think what happens is the Falcons play a slow-paced type of game. And as I said, Kyle Pitts is not being utilized. It would not shock me if Atlanta tried to move him at the trade deadline. I know a lot of people are going to say, that's nuts. Let me rephrase it. I don't think the Falcons try to move him. I think somebody offers them a deal they just can't drop. And given the fact that his fifth-year option is coming up this summer, I think the Falcons try to move. I think they try to move him and get something out of him because they don't know how to use him. They're not. But let's look at the tail of the tape. Cordero Patterson is questionable. Jeff Okudah is out. That could be a huge plus for the Carolina Panther passing game. Adam Thielen's questionable, and DJ Shark is out. And that's a hamstring issue, if I recall correctly. This has got to stop, DJ. You got to get yourself in order, bro. But I still think the Falcons pull out the W. I think it ends up being a 17-13 affair. Falcons. I think Bryce has a good game. And I even think Jonathan Mingo has a good game. I think Carolina's defense has a good game. And they harass Desmond Ridder. And I think it starts to throw into questions, can Desmond Ridder handle elite defenses? I think Bijan Robinson has a good debut. But the Falcons get the win. Let's move forward to the game that I think is going to be the most lopsided. This is going to be a slaughter. This is just going to be a slaughter. And especially with Jacksonville, now Calvin Ridley's in uni. I know Jacksonville lost a few pieces, but Indy is just a mess. And I'm not even talking about just management. It's just management in general. I can't take this team seriously, and it has nothing to do with the players. And then they start in Anthony Richardson with no quality running back in the backfield. No quality run. Nobody's talking about that. And it's like, early when this thing started, it was like, okay, yeah, I get it. Nobody is starting with this team like this. You can't be serious. So you don't even have a running back listed on their website, guys. They just got left tackle, left guard, center, quarterback. What? It's like, what? Are you kidding me right now? And that's the thing I don't understand. This team is such a mess, they don't even know what they're doing. I don't get it. Maybe it's not my place to get it. But they don't have anything, and they need to find a trade partner that is going to give them a tailback. You need to get a pick, and you need to get a tailback. Okay. You got Evan Hull. You got Deion Jackson. He's pretty good. Zach Moss. Zach Moss wasn't the answer in Buffalo. You need to make a deal with somebody like the Bears. Miami can give you something huge. Now, because Miami, as I've told you guys, Miami makes that deal, they're going to the AFC title game. Jonathan Taylor puts them over. But I'm looking at this game and I'm just thinking, now Indy ain't got a bad defense, but they have no offense. This is going to be a beatdown, guys. I think Jacksonville puts up 31 points and the Colts maybe score 10. So I'm thinking it's going to be 31-10. Trevor Lawrence goes 8 crap crazy. I think Ridley gets his first touchdown as a Jag. And Lawrence continues his pursuit of dominating that division. Until C.J. Stroud gets on par, he's going to dominate this division. Indy's a mess. Houston's got C.J. Stroud. And it's just not. Tennessee is going to compete. But I still think Jacksonville has the upper hand in this division. But let's move forward to the 49ers and the Steelers as Mike Tomlin. I like him some days and some days I don't. Sometimes he's a great coach. Some days he whines too much. But he foresaw. He said it. He says, I'm going to get my guys ready like Nick Bosa's going to play. And he called it. Looking at Mike Tomlin and talking to this situation is he was the pessimist / optimist. Mike Tomlin called this thing right. He saw that Nick Bosa was probably going to get a deal done, and the 49ers got it done. If you've been busy and not checking out the news and whatnot, Nick Bosa got re-signed, and he will be available today. Now, the question is, how many reps will he take? I think this is the thing about Mike Tomlin. You never know. You just never flipping know about Mike Tomlin, what's going to happen with this guy. This team is going to get to 500. They proved that last year. The minute you think they're not going to get to 500, they get there. But I question whether or not the Steelers... Now, Steelers beat the Bengals last year to open the season. So, I'm debating. You guys see I'm kind of wondering. My wheels are turning somewhat. But I look at it and I say to myself, are the weapons of the 49ers going to be able to come to play given that they've been off for this long? Now, the 49ers did lose some chunks, and they have Charvarius Ward is questionable, and George Kittle is questionable. And look, I'm just going to say it. The 49ers are favored, but I am going to take the Steelers in the upset. I think the defense creates turnovers and they score points. I think the Steelers win this one 17-14. Upset Steelers. Let's move forward. Moving on to probably the team that is going to have the first pick in the draft, the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Commanders didn't do anything overwhelming in the offseason to make me believe that they're this much better than the Cardinals, but I would say they are much better. The only two major injuries that I see, the Cardinals' Marquise Brown and the Cardinals' Zach Ertz. Now, given the fact, and this is something that I looked at and I was just like, you can't be serious. Kyler Murray is on the IR, as most people know. Joshua Dobbs, who played well, and they have Clayton Tune backing him up. I think Dobbs is a good player, considering what he had to face last year in that do-or-die game against the Jaguars. I didn't totally understand why you let Colt McCoy go. I mean, we don't even know how long it's going to be before Kyler Murray's back. This is a situation that people are already saying that which I believe they will. I believe the Cardinals are going to tank, which I don't understand. You just signed Kyler Murray to a big deal. You're going to have to eat that deal. And why play around with this situation if you knew that's what you were not totally committed to Kyler Murray? It's the only thing I didn't understand. Now you're in a situation where you kind of have to decide if you're going to move on from him or you're going to stay with him, because ultimately he's got to get back not only in the game shape once he gets back to form, he's got to get on pace with a new offense and a new offensive coordinator. Cliff Kingsbury, y'all got rid of him. And all of that was predicated on the fact that he knew what he wanted out of Kyler Murray. Now, granted, the defense wasn't great, but now you got your your guy that, in my opinion, was one of your best pieces in Isaiah Simmons, you shipped him out. And got little to nothing for him. And it's like, what are y'all doing over there at Arizona? Y'all just really doing a complete blow-up rebuild? But I don't know about this team. I think they'll be competitive in some games, but I don't think anybody's going to take them seriously. You know, you really don't have a lot of pieces that strike fear in you. I mean, you have to have at least one guy on that receiving core that scares you. Connor's a good player. Keontae Ingram's a good running back. Both those guys are good running backs. You got Marquise Brown, Greg Dortch, Zach Pascal, Rondell Moore. But none of these guys carry any size. All these guys are speed guys. You don't have any guys out there that's like a possession guy. I mean, I don't know. I'm just sitting here wondering. I mean, people probably call Michael Wilson, but I don't. I don't call him a possession guy. He's an unestablished guy, if anything. But back to the game. I look at this and I say, Commanders win this game. Vegas has them as 7-point favorites. I would venture to say this game is probably going to end up 21-3. Not Cardinals. 21-3 Commanders. I think the Commanders run the football, win with play action. You know, this is going to be the official first start for Sam Howell. He gets to show what he can do at North Carolina State. And I think you're looking at his weapons. I mean, look at this. Jamison Crowder was a guy that was a star here for the longest time. He was a star slot guy. And then they had De'Ami Brown. These guys are backups. You know, I mean, let's be real. Even though Crowder's 30 years old, he's been around a long time. He was a guy that was killing it in the slot. And then they've got De'Ami Brown. These are just their two backups, guys. And that's Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Curtis Samuel are their guys. This offense is going to be a little scary. To go with Brian Robinson Jr. as well as Antonio Gibson. I'm gonna be honest with you. If they can get this, thing going, and then this defense can get to where they can get Chase Young back on the field, because Montez Sweat's been the truth. Jonathan Allen's been good. I think they get a lot of pressure, you know, and then you got Emmanuel Forbes as well as Kendall Fuller. These guys are going to be very, 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 very good defensively. If they can get Chase Young back to his old way. But I think this game goes 21-3. And the Commanders get their first win, and Sam Howell gets his first win as the newly crowned guy in D.C. Moving on, Vegas and Denver. 425 games, guys. Vegas and Denver. This is an intriguing matchup because we've seen Vegas pretty much deface what was John Gruden's era. They got rid of Darren Waller, Derek Carr, kept Devontae Adams. I like Jimmy G, but Jimmy G was a guy that could work the offense based on a defense. Vegas is rebuilding theirs. I'm not, and then they're having this bickering dispute with one of the best players. I'm not a Sean Payton fan. You know, I think he's too cocky and arrogant for a guy that's only done a limited amount of stuff. And like I said, I think you can't keep a guy like Chandler Jones happy. You know, for whatever reason is going on there. I know they're going to probably start Tyree Wilson, the guy they drafted out of Texas Tech. That may be a good deal, may not be, but I think Chandler Jones being in there is even more important. They've got some guys in that secondary, but I'm not sold on Vegas being ready with Jimmy G. And this stupid holdout they had with Josh Jacobs was just, you're kind of like, what was that about? What was the point? And then you have the Denver Broncos. I love Russ, but I can't stand Peyton. I mean, I want to say what I want to say, but I want to keep it clean. I want people to watch it and not say this guy's a filth box. I don't like Sean Payton. I can't stand him. Every time he loses, it's somebody else's fault. He wins, it's all about, he makes it sound like he's the best thing on earth. There's a difference between being confident and just being straight out, unrealistically cocky and arrogant. And that's what he is. As far as the game goes, this is a tough one. I'll give the edge to the Broncos because there's so much just chaos in the Raider locker room. I think Josh McDaniels needs to be gone. I thought what he did to Derek Carr was just, he ain't no head coach. You're trying to copy somewhat of a mold of what Belichick does. It ain't working. You are not the Belichick mind. You are not Belichick. You can't run a locker room like him. You don't command that kind of respect. You can try, but you ain't that dude. You need to step down. Now, I give the edge to the Denver Broncos, and I will say I think the Broncos run the ball and they use Russell Wilson in a more effective way. I will say that Sean Payton understands how to get the most out of his offensive players. I will say that. So with that being said, I think this is going to be a close one. I think this is going to be one of those snoozers. And I think the Broncos are able to win it 16-6. 16-6 Broncos. Let us move to another 425 one. This one's going to be good. The Dolphins and the Chargers. Now it may have seemed like it was a long time ago, but we look here and we saw that the Chargers and Austin Eckler were at each other's, not necessarily throats, but Austin Eckler was at the table demanding he get his pay raise. With that being said, he deserved to get paid. He did. And the Dolphins are still looking for their guy in the backfield. They're doing the backfield by committee, which is what's been hurting them. They need an established name. They've gone after Jonathan Taylor. They somewhat flirted with Dalvin Cook. They didn't go after Kareem Hunt, and I'm still wondering why this guy is not employed. This is a guy that I would go after, without a doubt. But looking at all things and how they are without Jalen Ramsey for the first couple of weeks. And Teron Armstead being out is a huge blow to Miami's ability to run the football, what little they do. I think Justin Herbert, like I said, he was one of the highest paid players. He's badly overrated. I'm sorry. For a guy that has not won a playoff game, he showed me that. You don't deserve to be up there with the Burrows and the Lamars and Josh Allens. You got to win, player. You got to win. But, having said that, I think even with all that, I believe the Dolphins go into LA and they win. And it's going to be a charged. There's going to be a moment. There's going to be times in this game where it's just boo, boo, but then it's going to be because both of these are high octane offenses, and I think Tua has one of those games. Could be wrong, but I think Tua has one of those games, and I think the score of this game is going to be 31-28. Dolphins. Let us move forward. We're getting on down towards the nitty-gritty. Philadelphia Eagles, the defending NFC champs versus the New England Patriots. Now, you can have your opinion as to why the Philadelphia Eagles were victorious last year. Maybe it's because just Jalen Ramsey Jalen Hurts, nobody saw him coming. Or it could have been that the NFC was just that watered down. I think they spent the money correctly, and they don't have a ton of dead cap weight, which means they don't have a lot of guys that are not on the roster that they're paying for. That makes a huge difference. Ain't that right, Carolina? With that being said, you got the New England Patriots, who probably arguably spend the least amount of money. But they're always competitive. I remember hearing somebody on, it wasn't First Take, I think it was NFL Live, say the Patriots are always, with no more than what they have, they always get the most out of their players. And here's the thing that struck me. You take 2 games out of it, and it's like that Oakland game, that Las Vegas game, you know, that game where they throw the ball, instead of going into overtime, they throw it, and he takes it the distance. I think it was Jones. Yeah, he takes it the distance, and they win the game. I think Mac Jones is not the guy. I think he was overhyped. Now they got Bailey Zapp on the roster, and it's, to me, they just don't have. They're going to be a running team. Belichick is going from the guy. He's going from the guy that basically told us that the double tight end and the short passing offense is the way to go. Now he's going back to. He's got Zeke Elliott and Ramondre Stevenson, which Stevenson is questionable, as well as Devontae Parker. That's nothing new. He stays on that list. And I'm interested to see with this defense now with big, long Christian Gonzalez on it, what they're able to accomplish. Because you already know what you're going to get with these guys. These guys run that 3-4, and they're going to be aggressive. But having said that, do I honestly think this is going to be enough for them to get the win in Foxborough? Part of me wants to say yes, and part of me wants to say no. But due to the sake of argument, I am going to take the Eagles. And I'm going to take the Eagles 24-14. 24-14. Let us move forward. And this is probably one of the more intriguing matchups of the week. The Green Bay Packers against the Chicago Bears. Now, if you guys have been on a desert island for like the last 3 months, you all know Aaron Rodgers is no longer the king in Green Bay. That mantle has been passed to, that crown has been passed to Jordan Love, finally. With Christian Watson probably out, I'm not sure Green Bay is going to win this game. We look at Aaron Jones and the running game. More than likely, that's what they're going to lean on. If I was a betting man, I would probably be safe to say that that's what they're going to do. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are going to do a lot of damage today. And you look at the receiving corps, it's kind of like, not much. So like I said, I'm looking for this to be a team that is going to rely heavily on the run. Now, Chicago was up and down last year against the run. And, most people sit there and say, let's look at the average. No, there were some games Chicago's defense was pretty dang stout against the run. And there were games where their defense was leaky. Oh, yeah. I truly believe that the Chicago Bears making the move that they made, getting DJ Moore, was just you couldn't make it any better. You add Khalil Herbert with you add Dante Foreman with Khalil Herbert, and you already had Rashawn Johnson. Then you add that 1-2-3 punch. You've got Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, and DJ Moore, along with Cole Kmet, who you just gave a pretty good substantial deal. You're eliminating excuses for Justin Fields. Now, do I think he's taking that next step this year? I'm going to say he is. And I say that the Chicago Bears win this game. And it's going to be a surprising score. I believe that the Chicago Bears win this game 24-6. 24-6. 24-6. Let us go to the game that is going to be the finale of the Kickoff 2023 day. The Rams and Seahawks. Snooze fest. This is a team that is the Marlins, modern day Marlins. Win a championship, ditch it all. And I agree with Dan Orlovsky. The Rams ain't got no shot without Cooper Kupp. You know, this ain't. You put your eggs in the Cooper Kupp, and what else you got? It's like you got rid of everybody else. I mean, this is a dude that. I mean, if it wouldn't surprise me if Cooper Kupp was like, "No, dog, I ain't going out there with that." And this is probably going to be a team that is. I mean, this is going to be Kyron Williams' best opportunity to play. And it's Cam Akers is going to get a lot of work. I don't see nothing. This roster is depleted, bro. I would venture to say they try. I mean, they want to keep Aaron Donald a Ram for life. Good luck with that. This is not going to be a game. I mean, they got Seattle as a 5-point favorite. I would venture to say Seattle covers that and a lot more. I'm going to say Seattle's going to win this thing 27-6. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. My thoughts and predictions on week 1. Guys, go to the Facebook page and let me know what you think. Do you guys think, do you like my predictions? Do you not like what you don't like about them? Make sure you go. Until the next time, guys, keep watching all of that NFL action. And until we meet again, same Gap channel, same Gap platform.